Hey Defenders, welcome back. In this video, I want to show you guys how we can automate nearly everything within Wazuh with Wazuh's robust API. So Wazuh provides a pretty robust API that we can use for remote management of our Wazuh manager, our agents, kind of our whole Wazuh infrastructure as a whole. And some key features of this are the ability to manage our agents, manage our rules, manage security policy scans, remote upgrades. We can update CBD lists if we want to, and much more. So out of the box, Wazuh gives us the ability to automate pretty much anything we want, and the list goes on. And I'll kind of show you where I'll show you guys where that documentation is here in a sec. But how exactly are we going to interact with Wazuh's API? You could do a few things. You could build your own bash scripts or Python scripts that take advantage of Wazuh's API. You can also make HTTP requests out to Wazuh's API using curl, for example. And that is exactly what we're going to do in this video. And we're going to use Shuffle so that we can even automate further, right? So we can take the data that we receive from Wazuh's API and build some logic around the data that we're getting back from Wazuh's API rather than, building a whole bash script or Python script to do that. We're going to go ahead and do it within Shuffle. So first things first, Wazuh provides their own documentation for their API. And I'll also link to this in the description below. But here you can see all of the functions that we can do within Wazuh's API. So here you see we have active response. So we have the ability to run active response commands. If we select the agents, you can see all of the different functions we can take advantage of within an agent. You can get agents operating system, for example, their agent status, which agents are active, which ones are not communicating with your manager. So you can build some automation around that. You can update lists remotely, and I won't get into all of these because there are a ton, but I look to cover some of these other features in videos down the road. So we'll definitely be coming back to this. This won't just be a one and done thing. But first things first, we need to authenticate with Wazuh's API. And to do so, we need to receive a JWT token from the Wazuh manager so that we can authenticate to its APIs. So if you see here, they provide the command that we can run to authenticate with our Wazuh manager and get our JWT token. And here where you see user and password, that will be the username and password of the Wazuh API. And we'll get into that here in a second. So here I am on my Wazuh manager. So first things first, all communication will be done over port 55,000. That is the port that the Wazuh API listens on. And so that is the port where we will send our request to. So this is a box that is running my Wazuh manager. So if I do a netstat LTP&D, let's just first things first, make sure that port 55,000 is listening. And sure enough, it is. So that looks good. And by default, our username and password, if you don't change it after you just install Wazuh, is Wazuh-WUI and then Wazuh-WUI as well. So that'll be our username and password that we will use to authenticate with Wazuh to get our JWT token. And this is the default credentials for the API. So if you knowingly haven't changed it, it will be that. You can also change the password for the Wazuh API with this API request here, which I would highly recommend, but in this demo, I'm not going to go through that. So my default credentials will be my Wazuh-WUI and Wazuh-WUI. And so again, I said I'm going to be using Shuffle to actually interact with Wazuh's API. So I'm going to call this new workflow, just Wazuh API. And what I'm first going to do is create a node to get our JWT token. So I'm going to remove this guy. And again, I said we're going to be using HTTP requests to interact with Wazuh's API. So I'm going to drag this guy over here. I'm just going to go, instead of using one of the pre-built actions, I'm just going to use a raw curl statement. And here I'll just give it a name of get Wazuh token. And I'm gonna copy that command there, and I'm gonna paste it into our editor here. And now we need to make a few changes here. So first, we need to change our username and password. So again, with the default, they'll just be Wazuh-WUI, and then I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but hopefully I am. Wazuh-WUI, and then now we need to point to the host that our Wazuh manager is running on. So a side note, if you are running a cluster of Wazuh managers, you will point this guy to your master node within the cluster. So this is a word of advice there. So my manager is running on 192.168.200.16, and then port 55,000. So that's right. And then we're invoking this specific path here to generate our JWT token. So that looks good. So Shuffle is just going to make this curl request for us, and our manager should hopefully respond with our JWT token. So if we go ahead and save that off and give that a run, let's see, we got 2 results back. Sure enough, here we get our token back. So this is the Wazuh manager generated this token and sent it back to us for us to use for the rest of our API calls. And that'll become more clear here in a sec. Let me actually kind of clean this up a little bit. So after authenticate, you can specify specific options with a question mark. So we'll get into that a little bit here in a sec as well. But for here, I'm going to say raw is equal to true, just so it's a little cleaner and easier for me to play around with within Shuffle. And so here you see our result comes back a little different, right? It's not that JSON block, it's just the straight result. So, all right, so that's looking good. So we're getting our JWT tokens, and we'll leave this guy here because we'll have to use that JWT token for the rest of our API requests that we want to make. So let's first, let's look at some agent stuff. So yeah, let's just first list our agents. I don't think, and the documentation is really good for when you want to, well, when you want to just discover what the API, what features within the API we can take advantage of. And then also the paths that we'll need to use. So for example, if we want to just, let's say, list agents, you see there, we have to make a GET request to /agents. If we want to delete agents, we have to make a delete request to /agents, right? And then down below, we have these query parameters that we can use. So we can prettify the results, wait for completion. We can specify specific agents, and we'll get in a little more of that here in a sec. You can even drill down to specific operating systems. So that would be cool. If you want to do like a task on all Windows boxes, but not Linux boxes, you could use the API to say, okay, operating system of, let's just say Windows 10. So we can return back all the agents that are Windows 10 boxes and then do whatever we want to do on them, which is pretty cool. The documentation here is really good for building your queries that you want to use, and then also discovering what features we can take advantage of. So let's first just list out all the agents, and this is a simple one. So I'll just say get agent. So what we're going to do is with our new node here, I'll just call this guy list all agents. And I'm going to say our curl command here, and let's go ahead and build this out. So, okay, so we're invoking our curl. We are sending a GET request, right? Because that is what Wazuh tells us is the request we need to make. So that looks good. So we have our Wazuh manager, our port, and then you notice we're not /secure /auth / whatever that was for the JWT token. We are now referencing what Wazuh states we need to reference, which is our /agents, which is what we have here because we're looking to list agents. So we are then going to add our header that will include our JWT token. So we're going to send a header of authorization and then bearer, and then the value is going to be the result of our JWT token, which will be this guy here, right? So I've set that to our variable of get Wazuh token, and then we're adding another header of just content type of application JSON. That all looks good. So let's go ahead and set done here, and let me save. And let's go ahead and run this. So we're first going to get our JWT token, and then we're going to use that to list all of our agents that have once been connected to our Wazuh manager. So looks like that's finished. Let's parse this guy out and let's look at some of the results. So here we see a message, all selected agents information was returned. Okay, good. And then here we can see if we start to drill down, we have data, then we have affected items. So if we go ahead and expand this, now we see all of our agents here. So here you can see I have a total of 52 agents that have, not all of these are connected. I'm sure a ton of these have been brought down. I just haven't removed them from Wazuh itself. But here are all of my agents that had once been connected to my Wazuh manager. So if you start to drill down into all of these guys, you get the meta details around it, right? So we can drill down into the operating system that this guy was. We can look at the current status. So now this one is disconnected. This is probably a server I once had running and have blown away now. So this guy is the status of disconnected. You can see what group it was a part of within Wazuh. The manager it was connected to. Looks like I hosted this one within a cloud environment, so its IP address was a public IP address, the name, and all meta details around that, which is pretty cool. And also the agent ID at the time. So this one has an agent ID of 20. So pretty cool. However, a ton of these guys are disconnected, and yeah, I think I only have like one connected at this point. But here we can now use the API to list out all of the agents within Shuffle. So pretty cool. So let's not list out all agents. Let's go ahead and just list out only the active ones. So I'm going to make another API request here, and I'll say list active agents in curl. And I can pretty much use the same statement as our list all agents node, except here I'm going to add a search parameter. And if we look at the list agents function, if we scroll down a little bit, you can see we can select on a specific status. And here you can see the items that we can use are active, pending, never connected, or disconnected. So in this example, let's only list active agents. So here I'm going to just add a question mark after the agents, which is saying, hey, I am now passing my query parameters to you. So now I will use status. Oh, if I spell that right, status, and then I'm gonna set that equal to active. So now this API request is going to list all the agents, but it's only going to return back to us the ones that are in a active state, which I think should only be two, my manager and another agent that I have connected to this guy. So let's go ahead and save, and let's kick this off. And if we scroll down, so we see our list all agents returned, and with our whatever it was, 52 items. Okay, good. And now let's look at the results of our list active agent. So if we filter this guy out, you see now we only have 2 items, right? So we only have our 2 connected agents, which is the Wazuh manager itself. Then if I scroll down, we see this one other agent that is connected and online and is running version 4.2.1. And if I look at the version that my manager is on, we have version 4.2.6. And another cool feature is we can actually use the Wazuh API to upgrade an agent. So if we look at our upgrade agents here, we'll need to send a put request to /agent/upgrade, and then we can include our agent list. And this will be a list of agent IDs. And how would we get an agent ID? Well, that's returned to us from the API request of list active agents, right? So if we scroll down, we see an ID is equal to 004. And because we're dealing with a list, right? So we have our list active agents .data .affected items, and this guy is a list of 2 agents, right? So because we are dealing with the list, I'm going to go ahead and send this to a subflow that will be able to run this against each of these agents, and that'll hopefully be more clear in a sec. So I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this guy out, and workflows, I'm gonna say, let's just call this guy upgrade agents, because that is exactly what we're going to do in this subflow. So going to select that guy, and let's just use a repeat back to me function, because we want to repeat the Wazuh agent. So I'm gonna say repeat Wazuh agent, and we're gonna give it the call of the $ execution. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that. Let's go ahead and set up a trigger to send the results of this to our subflow. So I'm gonna say send to upgrade agents. I'm going to select my workflow. So we just create our upgrade agents workflow. So we'll select that. Our start node is going to be repeat Wazuh agent, which that is exactly what our start node is called here. So here we have repeat Wazuh agent. So that looks good. And now we need to pass it some execution arguments. Our data affected items that list. Yeah, so this guy should send our 2 items, which will be our agents here, to our subflow. So let's go ahead and paste that in there and save that. And let's give this guy a run and let's just see that data come into our subflow. So we're getting our JWT token. We're then going to list all agents and then list only our active agents and pass the active agents list to our subflow. So if we go into our subflow now, we see our 2 executions. And if we look at, and 2 executions because there were 2 items in this list, right? There were 2 agents that responded back as being active. If this was 3 agents would have responded, then we would have 3 separate runs here. So what's nice about subflows and lists is you can pass the subflow a list and it will run each item within the list uniquely. So if we open this guy up, we see the Wazuh manager and we see all of the contents for it. So now we can call each of these various fields to do whatever we want to do. So this is our Wazuh manager. And if we look at the second execution that ran, here is our Wazuh agent. And here we see everything here. And since there were only 2 active agents, all I got was 2 runs on my subflow. So this is looking good. So now we see this version is 4.2.1. So let's add some logic that will upgrade our agent to the latest version, which I believe is 4.2.6. And since we are now invoking a new subflow, we don't have the JWT token currently to pass to our next API request, to our next request to the Wazuh API. So we're actually going to go back to our workflow that we previously created, and let's go ahead and use the set Json Key action within our Shuffle Tools app to add our JWT token that we originally generated to our JSON block that we send to our subflow. So I'm going to go ahead and bring over our Shuffle Tools, and I'm going to just connect this guy here. And I'll just call this guy merge data. And for action, I'm going to look for set JSON key. So I'm going to go ahead and select this guy. And here we need to pass it an object. And that JSON object is just going to be our list of active agents. So it's going to be the same of what our execution argument is there. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this guy here. And then my key, I'll just say JWT underscore token. And our value, so where are we going to get that JWT token? Well, that's going to be our get Wazuh token. And that is going to be our get Wazuh token. So if we go ahead and save and run this guy, let's go ahead and look what this will look like. What this will do is we'll still have our list active agents output. So the JSON output of all of our current active agents. And then we should also see another field with our JWT token. So if you see here, our results for merge data. So we see all of the agent metadata that we were looking at earlier. And then if we scroll down here, we'll also see our field here, our JWT token. So let's go ahead and change the execution argument that we send to the subflow to be our merge data list. So I'm going to change our execution argument to merge underscore data dot hashtags, because this is still a list, right? Because we have 2 items within this list. So 2 items because we have 2 agents. Well, we have 1 agent and the manager as being active. So that'll be 2 items within our list. So let's go ahead and save and then run this guy off again. And now the results we'll receive in our subflow will include our JWT token. So we won't actually have to create it again, which is nice. So if we go ahead and refresh, and let's go ahead and look at this, the contents of this guy. And if we scroll down, we see all of our agent metadata, and then we also see our JWT token that we can use. So we could have technically just duplicated our get Wazuh token app again on this subflow as being the first step of that subflow, but this also will hopefully show you guys how we can use the set JSON key to merge data together and then pass it all at once to either another app or a subflow in this instance. So okay, so now that we have that, we have our agent IDs here, and if we go to the Wazuh docs for the API, let's look at upgrade agents. Here we see an agents list is a required parameter. So we're going to make a put request to /agents/upgrade, and then we need to make sure we include our agents list, and that'll be equal to our agent ID, which if we look at this guy, that value for this particular agent is 004. So we're gonna make sure we pass that guy as our parameter. So I'm gonna go ahead and just copy one of these previous statements here and drag him over. And also we'll just call this guy upgrade agent. And we're gonna say a curl again. Let me span this out so it's a little easier to read. And here, instead of a get, right, we will need to specify a put request. So I'm gonna change my get here to a put. And then let's go ahead and clean up our path. So agents/upgrade. So I have agents/upgrade. And then we need to specify our parameter. So agent_list. I'm going to set that agent_list. And then here, we're not going to set it to a static value, right? Because our agent IDs, as you know, the goal of this workflow is to be able to automatically upgrade our agents from the newest version every time this runs. So we can't have our agent list being a static value, right? We can't just, we could, for this example, just put in 004 because we know that's the agent ID. But when we want this to run in an automated fashion without any user input, we need to assign this to a variable. So that variable is going to be the ID. So I'll go ahead and just use the auto complete here. And if we scroll down, we see our ID field. So we're going to call the repeat Wazuh agent.id because again, that's the field that we get back from our API request to Wazuh. And what's nice about the subflow and how it's handling the list is now the shuffle will automatically loop through all of the agents within the list that we would originally get back here. So we have our two agents, right? But here on our subflow, you only see the one because shuffle creates a new subflow for every item within that list. So it's a really easy way for us to be able to handle lists within shuffle because that's kind of taken care of, that's taken care for us under the hood, which is really nice. So let me go back into our curl, and instead of agent list equal to active, I'm going to paste in our variable, which is repeat _Wazuh _agent.id. So that will contain our 004. So I'll go ahead and set done. Oh, and actually I need to change our Wazuh token. So that is actually going to be the JWT token that we would see here. So here I'm going to say repeat Wazuh agent.jwt token, right? Because that's the value of where our token is. So, okay, I'm gonna paste that there, and that looks good. And now I can actually go ahead and delete this guy. I just like to use that when using auto completion on variables that you can reference within the workflow. But now let's make sure we don't accidentally upgrade the Wazuh manager, right? So if we look at I believe it should be this execution. Yeah, this guy is our Wazuh manager with an agent ID of 000. So I don't want our automation here to upgrade our Wazuh manager. I just wanted to, I want to do that manually when Wazuh releases a new version. Because I know my Wazuh manager agent ID is 000, I'm going to state a condition here to say our agent ID cannot equal 000. So I can actually just go ahead and select this field here. So I'm gonna copy that. And within our arrow, selecting our arrow here, I'm gonna set a new condition and I'm gonna say not, right? So I'm gonna negate this value. Our source is going to be repeat underscore Wazuh underscore agent.id. I'm saying not equal to 0 to 000 because I know that's our manager. So if we go ahead and submit and save that guy, now what should happen once we run this workflow, we should now see our agent be upgraded automatically. I'm gonna go ahead and run our execution, which we are getting our Wazuh token, we're listing our active agents, we're merging our agent list with our JWT token, and then we're passing that to our subflow. So that's been passed to our subflow. Now if we look at these executions, we see our first one fail, right? Because agent ID is 000. Right, so if I minimize and show the failed actions, you see our agent upgrade didn't run because our condition wasn't met. It was 000. We're saying our condition cannot be 000. So then if I look at our second execution, right, we see all upgrade tasks were completed. So that's looking good. So now I believe the version was part of what came back, right? Yeah, so in our last run, we see our Wazuh version is at 4.2.1. Where now our Wazuh manager is on 4.2.6. So with the auto upgrade that we just ran, it should have upgraded our agent here to version 4.2.6. So let's just run the same workflow, but I'm actually going to take away the send to the subflow here, so that because I'm just interested in seeing the status of our agent that should be upgraded now. So if we run this, we should hopefully see our agent have a version of 4.2.6. So it looks like our list active agents has ran. So our first agent within the list is not actually an agent, but our Wazuh manager. And then if I scroll down and look at our agent, yeah, sure enough, we see we are now on version 4.2.6. So pretty cool. We can now auto upgrade our agents without us having to do anything manually. You know, you could get really creative with Wazuh's API, and I plan on making videos in the future going into more advanced features, such as, you know, adding to a list via shuffle, or running SCA scans or SCA scans or vulnerability scans, and then with those results pumping them to a Hive ticket and so on and so forth. So their API that they provide is pretty robust, and with us being able to use Shuffle to integrate with it, the door for possibilities just really opens up, and we can now get really creative with this, which is pretty cool and allows us to automate a lot of the kind of Wazuh administration and management side of things via Shuffle. And I have also published these two workflows to Shuffle's cloud. So if you want to follow along within the video itself, you can just go to shuffler.io, search for OpenSecure, and we have our Wazuh list active agents workflow, and then our OpenSecure upgrade agents workflow subflow that you guys can follow along with. So please feel free to start to explore on your own, and let me know some of the use cases you guys come up with. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one.